They thought I'd stay silent when they handed my position to someone I trained. But they forgot one crucial detail. In the client roster. It's my signature that matters. And when the pipeline started running dry, I was already gone, with every major contract following in my wake. If you think losing a promotion is the end, you haven't learned how to play the game like I do. My name is Madison Clark, and at 34, I'd built something most people in corporate America only dream about. An entire strategic partnerships division from scratch. Head of Strategic Partnerships at Brightmore Solutions wasn't just a title. It was a testament to every 16-hour day, every red-eye flight, every deal I'd closed while others slept. The Chicago skyline stretched outside my corner office window, a view I'd earned by bringing in $43 million in partnership revenue over 4 years. Not inherited, not gifted. Built with my own hands, relationship by relationship, contract by contract. I straightened my Armani blazer and checked my watch. The board meeting was in 2 hours, the meeting where David Palmer, our CEO, would finally announce my promotion to VP of Partnerships. It wasn't speculation, it was destiny written in quarterly reports and client testimonials. My assistant knocked. Madison, the Q3 partnership deck is ready for your review. Thanks, Sarah. I flipped through the slides, each one showcasing another victory. Technova International, Meridian Systems, Global Reach Enterprises. My signatures on every contract. My relationships keeping them loyal. But something felt off that morning. Little things I'd trained myself to notice after years of reading corporate tea leaves. David's executive assistant had canceled our prep meeting. The CFO avoided eye contact in the elevator. And then there was Brandon Hale. Brandon. 6 months ago, he was a fumbling MBA grad who couldn't tell a partnership proposal from a purchase order. David had assigned him to shadow me. Learn from the best, he'd said. I taught Brandon everything: how to read a room, structure a deal, navigate client politics. I'd even saved him from torpedoing the North Star account when he nearly sent confidential pricing to their competitor. Now Brandon was getting invited to executive lunches. His name appeared on meeting invites that used to be mine alone. Last week, I'd overheard David praising Brandon's fresh perspective on modern partnerships, words that felt like ice water down my spine. Madison? Sarah appeared again. David wants to see you. He said it's a quick sync before the board meeting. A quick sync, in corporate speak, those 2 words carried more weight than a performance review. I closed the partnership deck and walked to David's office, my heels clicking against marble floors with metronomic precision. David's office was a shrine to corporate success. Awards, photos with Fortune 500 CEOs, a putting green in the corner. He gestured to the leather chairs across from his desk, his smile too bright, too rehearsed. Madison, thanks for coming. Coffee? I'm good. I sat down, crossing my legs, maintaining the posture of someone who belonged in rooms like this. You've done incredible work with partnerships, David began, and I knew immediately where this was going. Nobody starts with praise unless they're about to drive a knife between your ribs. The board has been discussing the VP position, he continued, fidgeting with his Mont Blanc pen. We need someone who represents the future of Brightmore, someone with fresh energy. Fresh energy, corporate code for younger and cheaper. We're giving it to Brandon. The words hung in the air like smoke from a fired gun. I felt my jaw tighten but kept my expression neutral, a skill perfected through countless negotiations. Brandon's been showing remarkable potential. David continued, oblivious to the calculation already beginning behind my eyes. Your mentorship has been invaluable. We're hoping you'll continue to guide him in his new role. Guide him. Guide the man who'd stolen my promotion. Guide him using the relationships I'd built, the strategies I'd developed, the revenue streams I'd created. Of course, I said, my voice smooth as aged whiskey. I'm sure Brandon will do wonderfully. The board meeting was theater, and I played my part perfectly. I sat 3 seats from the head of the table, watching David announce Brandon's promotion with manufactured enthusiasm. The board members nodded approvingly, Most of them didn't even know Brandon's last name 6 months ago. Brandon stood up, his Tom Ford suit still creased from the store, his smile too wide for someone who'd just committed corporate theft. "I want to thank Madison especially," he said, turning to me with mock sincerity. "She's been an incredible mentor. I couldn't have done this without her guidance." I smiled back, the kind of smile that doesn't reach your eyes. "Congratulations, Brandon. Well deserved." Well deserved. The words tasted like battery acid. After the meeting, colleagues offered their sympathies in hushed tones. "You should have gotten it," whispered Jennifer from legal. "Everyone knows you built that division." But I didn't want sympathy. Sympathy was for victims, and I wasn't planning to be one. Brandon found me in my office later, practically bouncing with excitement. "Madison, I hope there are no hard feelings. I really meant what I said. You've been an amazing mentor." "No hard feelings at all," I lied smoothly. "In fact, I have some thoughts on the Q4 partnership strategy. Why don't we grab coffee tomorrow?" His eyes lit up like a child's on Christmas morning. "That would be fantastic. I could really use your expertise on the Global Reach renewal." The Global Reach renewal. My biggest deal, worth $12 million annually. The contract I'd negotiated during my honeymoon, taking calls from a beach in Santorini while my ex-husband sulked. "Of course," I said. "I'll walk you through everything." After Brandon left, I locked my door and opened my laptop. Not the company laptop, my personal one. I pulled up the partnership agreements, studying each line with fresh eyes. Most people don't read contracts carefully. They skim for numbers and signatures. But I read them like war plans, because that's what they were about to become. The beauty was in the details. My name appeared as the primary relationship holder on 17 of our 20 major accounts. The contract specified that any material changes required notification to the designated partnership representative, me, not my title, not the department, me. I opened another browser tab and checked Delaware's corporate filing system. Forming an LLC was simpler than most people realized. A few $100s, some paperwork, and you could create a perfectly legitimate business entity. I typed carefully, Harborfield Partners, LLC, neutral, professional, forgettable. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel Martinez, CEO of Technova. "Heard about the promotion situation? Drinks tonight?" Rachel and I had built our relationship over 3 years of quarterly reviews, crisis management, and the occasional martini. She trusted me with her company's expansion plans before she told her own board. "Absolutely," I texted back. "The usual place?" That evening, at a discreet bar in the financial district, Rachel cut straight to the point. "Brandon Hale? Really? The kid who asked me if Technova was like Uber for technology?" I swirled my martini. The board wanted fresh perspectives. Bullshit. They wanted someone cheaper who wouldn't challenge David. Rachel leaned in. "What's your plan?" "Who says I have a plan?" She laughed. "Madison, I've watched you turn a casual lunch into a 3-year contract. You always have a plan." I took a slow sip. "Let's just say I'm exploring my options. If you ever go independent, call me first." Rachel slid her personal card across the table. Technova values relationships, not titles. By the time I got home, I had similar texts from 3 other clients. Word traveled fast in our industry. They smelled blood in the water, and they were choosing sides. I opened my laptop again and began making lists. Not on company systems, never leave digital footprints, just good old-fashioned pen and paper. Names, contract dates, renewal terms, personal cell numbers I'd collected over years of relationship building. Brandon thought he'd won. David thought he'd saved money. They'd both forgotten the first rule of partnerships. It's not about the paper, it's about the people. And the people were mine. The next 6 weeks were a masterclass in strategic patience. I arrived early, left late, and mentored Brandon with the dedication of a spider teaching a fly about web construction. Every morning, I'd review his calendar, noting which clients he'd meet, which contracts he'd discuss. Every evening, I'd update my private files. "Madison, you're a lifesaver. Brandon said during one of our sessions, struggling with the Meridian Systems renewal. Their procurement team is being impossible. They always are in Q4, I said, pulling up the contract. Here's the thing about Meridian. They don't actually care about the discount. They care about looking like they fought for one. Give them 3% off and throw in premium support. They'll feel like they won. He took notes eagerly, missing the more important detail. I texted Meridian's CFO that morning from my personal phone, checking in about her daughter's college applications. The Delaware LLC paperwork for Harborfield Partners was approved in 10 days. I opened business banking accounts, set up a basic website, created email addresses. Everything clean, everything legal. The beauty of American capitalism, anyone can start a company, even someone planning to gut their employer from the inside. I studied my non-compete agreement like a surgeon studying anatomy. Brightmore's legal team had been sloppy, probably to save money. The agreement prevented me from soliciting clients for 12 months, but it said nothing about clients approaching me. It prohibited sharing confidential information, but didn't define what that meant. Trade secrets, sure. But relationships? Relationships weren't proprietary. The NDA was similarly Swiss cheesed. I couldn't share client lists or pricing data, but I already knew both by heart. I couldn't copy files or databases, but I didn't need to. I'd built those relationships with handshakes and happy hours, not spreadsheets. Late at night, I began laying groundwork. I updated my personal CRM, completely separate from company systems, with every client detail I could remember. Birthday dates, kids' names, favorite restaurants, pet peeves. The data that actually mattered. I reached out to key clients using my personal email, always carefully worded. Thinking of you, how's the expansion going? Or, saw the news about your acquisition? Impressive. Never mentioning Brightmore, never talking business, just maintaining personal connections that predated my employment. 3 weeks in, I incorporated a subtle shift. When clients asked about renewals or new projects, I'd say, Brandon's handling that now. I'm sure he'll take great care of you. The pause that followed was always telling. But you'll still be involved, right? Asked Marcus Chen from Global Reach. I'm always here to help. I'd say, which wasn't really an answer. I started building Harborfield's infrastructure. Not aggressively, that would raise flags, just casual preparations. I contracted with a freelance developer to create a more sophisticated website. Engaged a lawyer to review service agreements, opened conversations with potential subcontractors who could deliver what I'd promise. The master stroke was the partner network. Over the years, I'd cultivated relationships with complementary service providers, companies that worked alongside Brightmore but weren't competitors. I reached out to them individually. I'm exploring some independent consulting opportunities, I'd mentioned casually over lunch. If you ever need strategic partnership expertise, keep me in mind. They all said yes. More importantly, they all mentioned their frustrations with Brightmore's recent changes in direction. Brandon had been making rookie mistakes, and the partner ecosystem was noticing. Week 5. I created the first Shell partnership. Through a colleague at a non-competing firm, I established a referral relationship with Data Sync Solutions, a company that needed exactly what Brightmore offered. But instead of bringing them to Brandon, I suggested they explore multiple vendors and introduce them to a consultant who just happened to contract with Harborfield Partners. The deal would close after I left. My fingerprints were nowhere on it, but the commission would flow to Harborfield, not Brightmore. Pipeline's looking a bit soft for Q1, Brandon mentioned nervously during our Friday check-in. It always does this time of year, I reassured him. Don't worry, I'm sure things will pick up. He relaxed, not realizing the pipeline wasn't soft. It was being surgically redirected, one relationship at a time. January arrived with Chicago's brutal winds and my escalating campaign. Brandon strutted through the office with VP confidence, but behind closed doors, he was drowning. I watched him fumble through client calls, butcher negotiations, and mistake relationship management for sending LinkedIn messages. Madison, Global Reach is being weird, he complained during our morning coffee. They keep postponing our renewal meetings. That is odd, I said. knowing full well that Global Reach's decision maker was currently reviewing a proposal from Harborfield's partner network. Maybe they're just busy with year-end. The beauty of my approach was its invisibility. I never pitched Harborfield directly to Brightmoor's clients. That would violate my non-compete. Instead, I'd built a web of referrals and partnerships that naturally led clients to discover alternatives. When Technova's Rachel Martinez asked about exploring new partnership models, I mentioned my friend at Stratton Consulting, who specialized in innovative structures. Stratton Consulting happened to subcontract with Harborfield Partners. But that was just coincidence, wasn't it? When Meridian Systems expressed frustration with their support levels, I sympathetically suggested they document everything for their own protection. Documentation that would later justify exploring other options. I maintained perfect plausible deniability while systematically undermining every major deal in the pipeline. The first domino fell in mid-January. DataSync Solutions officially signed with one of Harborfield's partner companies, a deal worth $2 million annually that never even appeared on Brightmoor's radar. Brandon didn't know he'd lost it because he never knew it existed. Pipeline review today, Brandon announced, trying to project authority. Madison, I'll need your insights on the Global Reach situation. I sat in the conference room, watching him present numbers that were already obsolete. The pipeline showed $40 million in potential deals, but I knew at least $15 million was already compromised. Another $10 million was wavering. Looks solid, David said, but his eyes betrayed concern. Though I'd expected Global Reach to renew by now, they're just taking their time. Brandon stammered. Madison, any thoughts? Global Reach has always been methodical, I offered. I'm sure they'll come around. They wouldn't. Rachel Martinez had already scheduled a meeting with 3 alternative providers, all somehow connected to my growing network. Week by week, I increased the pressure. A casual mention to North Star Technologies that their contract terms were probably due for market reassessment. A sympathetic ear when Vertex Solutions complained about response times. A strategic introduction between frustrated clients who discovered they shared similar concerns. My resignation letter was already drafted, sitting in my personal email, but timing was everything. Leave too early, and the damage could be repaired. Too late, and I'd risk exposure. The perfect moment came when Brandon made his first major mistake. He sent a proposal to Phoenix Digital with the wrong pricing, rates meant for a much smaller client. When they naturally accepted the bargain prices, he had to backtrack, claiming internal miscommunication. They're furious, he moaned in my office, threatening to reconsider the whole relationship. Want me to call them? I offered sweetly. Would you? You have such a good relationship with their CEO. I did call them. I apologized profusely for Brightmoor's error, took full responsibility despite having no involvement, and suggested they document everything for their legal protection. Then I mentioned that the partnership landscape was evolving rapidly, with new boutique firms offering more personalized service. Are you thinking of going boutique? Phoenix Digital's CEO asked pointedly. I'm always thinking, I replied. By early February, the cracks were showing. 3 major renewals had stalled. 2 expansion deals had mysteriously cooled. The partner network was reassessing relationships. Brandon's confidence evaporated like morning dew. I don't understand what's happening, he confessed during what would be our last mentoring session. Everything was fine in December. Markets shift, I said philosophically. Sometimes clients just need something different. He nodded miserably, unaware that something different was already incorporated in Delaware, with a growing client list and a founder who knew exactly which pressure points to push. The February board meeting was in 2 days. The Q1 pipeline would be reviewed in detail. Questions would be asked that Brandon couldn't answer. It was time. The February board meeting was a bloodbath in slow motion. I sat in my usual seat, watching Brandon present pipeline numbers that looked healthy on paper but were rotten underneath. $42 million in projected revenue. He announced with false confidence. I knew $28 million of it was already gone. Why haven't these contracts closed? Board member Patricia Wells asked, tapping her pen against the Global Reach line item. Brandon's face flushed. They're evaluating their options. Madison's been helping me navigate their concerns. All eyes turned to me. I arranged my features into an expression of professional concern. Global Reach is exploring a more comprehensive partnership model. These things take time. What I didn't mention was that their new model wouldn't include Brightmore. David's jaw tightened. After the meeting, he cornered me in the hallway. What's really happening with these accounts? Market dynamics, I said smoothly. Clients are becoming more sophisticated. They want specialized expertise, not one-size-fits-all solutions. The irony was delicious. I'd spent 4 years proving Brightmore could be that solution. Now I was systematically proving it couldn't. That afternoon, I submitted my resignation. 2 paragraphs, effective in 2 weeks, thanking Brightmore for the opportunities. I sent it at 4:47 p.m., timed so HR would see it first thing Monday morning. Brandon found out Monday afternoon. He appeared in my doorway, face pale, hands shaking slightly. You're leaving? Time for new challenges, I said, packing a box with personal items I'd been slowly removing for weeks. But the contracts, the renewals, I need. You'll do fine. I lied. You're the VP now. Fresh perspective, remember? The next 2 weeks were exquisite torture for Brandon. Each day brought new disasters. North Star Technologies formally requested to explore alternative partnerships. Phoenix Digital went radio silent. Vertex Solutions scheduled a meeting to discuss concerns about service levels. Madison, please, Brandon begged on my last Wednesday. Just help me save Global Reach. I'll make sure David knows it was your work. Too little, too late. I've documented everything in the transition files, I said. All my strategies, all my approaches, everything you need. What those files didn't include were the relationships. The trust. The 3 a.m. calls I'd taken when clients had emergencies. The personal capital I'd spent building loyalty that couldn't be transferred through documentation. My last day was February 28th. I left at exactly 5 p.m., carrying a small box of remaining personal items. Sarah hugged me goodbye, tears in her eyes. This place won't be the same, she whispered. No, it wouldn't. March 1st, Harborfield Partners officially opened for business. By March 3rd, I had my first client meeting with Global Reach. Madison, Rachel Martinez embraced me warmly. Congratulations on the new venture. We've been evaluating our partnership needs, and Brightmore just isn't aligned with our direction anymore. I understand completely, I said. Tell me what you're looking for. What she was looking for was exactly what I trained her to want over 3 years: strategic thinking, personalized service, and a partner who understood her business inside and out. Harborfield Partners could provide all of that. The contract was worth $14 million over 3 years. Technova followed within a week. Then Phoenix Digital, eager to work with someone who wouldn't bungle their pricing. Meridian Systems reached out on March 15th. Even smaller clients I hadn't directly cultivated began inquiring about Harborfield services. I didn't solicit anyone. I didn't have to. The network I'd built over years was activating on its own, like a delayed reaction chemical experiment. Each client that left Brightmore created a gap that made others nervous. Nervous clients reevaluate their options. And their best option kept leading back to a boutique firm run by someone they already trusted. By the end of March, Brightmore's partnership pipeline had contracted by 60%. The board called emergency meetings. David's emails to me went from professional to pleading to threatening. I responded to none of them. Brandon lasted until April. The announcement of his transition to an advisory role was buried in a Friday afternoon press release. VP of Partnerships became an open position again. But by then, there wasn't much partnership left to manage. By May, Brightmore Solutions was hemorrhaging. The Q2 board meeting minutes leaked through my network. Revenue down 47%. Partnership division operating at a loss. Emergency restructuring under consideration. They'd hired an expensive consulting firm to diagnose the problem, paying them more in a month than my promotion would have cost in a year. The consultant's report was predictable: critical relationship management failure and lack of strategic partnership continuity. They recommended rebuilding the entire division from scratch. Good luck with that when every competent partnership professional in Chicago had heard about their treatment of talent. Sarah, my former assistant, called me in June. "Madison, it's chaos here. They've laid off 30% of the partnership team. David's been having meltdowns in the hallways." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, reviewing Harborfield's latest numbers: 8 million in secured contracts, 12 million in active negotiations. "He knows it was you," she whispered. "He hired investigators to look for evidence of theft or sabotage. They found nothing." Of course they found nothing. I'd stolen nothing but loyalty, sabotaged nothing but complacency. Every action I'd taken was legal, ethical by the letter of the law, and devastating by design. Brandon resurfaced on LinkedIn in July, announcing his new role as a strategic advisor for a startup no one had heard of. His posts about lessons learned in leadership and the importance of mentorship were particularly amusing. He'd learned his lessons too late. The real satisfaction came from building something better. Harborfield Partners wasn't just a revenge vehicle, it was the company I should have been running all along. I hired 2 of Brightmoor's best account managers who'd been laid off, offering them equity and respect. We operated lean, focused, and client-obsessed. "You know what the difference is?" Rachel Martinez told me over drinks in August. "When I call Harborfield, I get you. When I called Brightmoor, I got bureaucracy." David made one last attempt in September. He showed up at my office, a sleek space in the West Loop I'd secured with Global Reach's deposit. "Name your price," he said without preamble. "What will it take to undo this?" I leaned back in my chair, studying the man who'd thought I was replaceable. "There is no price. This isn't about money." "Then what? Revenge? You destroyed an entire division over a promotion?" "I didn't destroy anything," I corrected. "I simply took my relationships with me." "You destroyed the division when you forgot that partnerships are about people, not positions." His face darkened. "We could sue. Tortious interference, non-compete violation. You could try." I slid a folder across my desk. My lawyer prepared a summary of Brightmoor's potential exposure: wrongful denial of promotion, gender discrimination in advancement, systematic undervaluation of female executives. Should I continue? He didn't take the folder. We both knew he couldn't afford a legal battle while fighting for corporate survival. "The board is considering selling the company," he admitted quietly. "We can't recover the partnership revenue fast enough." I felt no sympathy. "That's unfortunate." He stood to leave, then turned back. "Was it worth it, destroying everything you built?" "I didn't destroy what I built," I said. "I took it with me. What I destroyed was what you built. A house of cards held together by other people's relationships." October brought news of Brightmoor's acquisition by a larger competitor at a fraction of its previous valuation. The partnership division was eliminated entirely. David Palmer quietly retired. The press release cited changing market conditions and strategic consolidation. My former colleagues knew better. The story spread through Chicago's business community in whispers and warnings. Don't underestimate the people who build your relationships. Don't mistake ownership for control. Don't promote the protege over the mentor who made them. Most importantly, don't assume the person who built your pipeline can't redirect its flow. I kept the newspaper clipping announcing Brightmoor's sale in my desk drawer, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. They'd thought I was just an employee, replaceable by someone younger and cheaper. They'd forgotten that in the partnership business, trust isn't transferable and relationships aren't corporate property. The Marina District office suited Harborfield Partners perfectly. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Lake Michigan, where morning light danced across the water like scattered diamonds. I arrived early, as always, but now it was my choice. My company, my future being built with every sunrise. My coffee mug bore the Harborfield logo. Simple, elegant, understated, like the revenge it represented. Steam rose from the Ethiopian blend as I reviewed the morning's agenda. 3 client meetings, 2 partnership proposals, 1 acquisition offer to decline. We weren't for sale. We were just getting started. Madison. Samantha knocked and entered, one of the former Brightmoor employees I'd hired. Global Reach wants to discuss expanding our partnership. They're talking about an exclusive arrangement. Set it up for next week, I said. And make sure legal reviews the exclusivity clauses carefully. She smiled. Already on it. Also, there's someone here to see you. No appointment. But she says she knows you from Brightmoor. Jennifer from legal walked in, looking worn but determined. Madison, I hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all. Coffee? She accepted gratefully. I'll cut to the chase. Brightmoor's dissolution is final next month. I need a new position, and... Well, everyone knows Harborfield is where the real partnership talent ended up. I studied her. Jennifer had always been sharp, ethical, one of the few who'd openly supported me for the promotion. We're not hiring in-house counsel yet. I'm not looking for that. I want to move into partnership management, learn the real business. I'm tired of just documenting other people's success. Bold. I appreciated bold. Send me your resume. We'll talk. After she left, I stood at the window, watching boats navigate the harbor, each vessel charting its own course, adjusting to currents and weather, reaching destinations through skill and determination. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but I recognized the cadence immediately. Congratulations on everything. You earned it. Brandon. I deleted it without responding. Some bridges weren't worth rebuilding, even with contrition as the foundation. The afternoon brought our monthly team meeting. 12 employees now, all equity holders, all invested in something we were building together. No hierarchies designed to keep talent in place. No promotions dangled like carrots while others fed on the harvest. Revenue's up 30% quarter over quarter, our CFO reported. At this rate, we'll hit $25 million in our first full year. $25 million, more than half of what Brightmoor's entire partnership division had generated at its peak. Built in months, not years. Built on trust, not titles. What about expansion? Someone asked. New York's been calling. One city at a time, I said. We grow smart, not fast. Quality over quantity. Relationships over transactions. They nodded. Everyone in the room had learned that lesson the hard way. Evening approached with golden light painting the office walls. I signed the last contracts of the day, 2 more former Brightmoor clients transitioning to Harborfield. Not out of spite anymore, but because we simply delivered better results. David Palmer had texted once, months ago. Why? I'd responded with 2 words. Why not? He never wrote again. The cleaning crew arrived as I prepared to leave. The same woman who'd cleaned Brightmoor's offices recognized me. Ms. Clark, I heard about your new company. My daughter just graduated with a business degree. She'd love to learn about partnerships. Have her send me her resume, I said, meaning it. Talent came from unexpected places when you stopped looking for it in the obvious ones. I locked the office and headed to the elevator. In the lobby, the security guard nodded respectfully. Have a good evening, Ms. Clark. You too. Marcus. Knowing names mattered. Relationships mattered. Everything else was just paper and promises. The city sparkled as I drove home. Chicago's skyline reflecting off the lake like a mirror of ambitions. Somewhere in those towers, companies were making the same mistakes Brightmoor had made. Undervaluing loyalty. Mistaking contracts for connections. Believing that power flowed from titles rather than trust. They'd learn. Or they'd hemorrhage. In my rearview mirror, Harborfield's building grew smaller but no less significant. Inside those walls, we were proving a simple truth. Some pipelines break under pressure, others get redirected, exactly where they were meant to flow all along. Thank you for listening to this story of corporate revenge and strategic redemption. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If Madison's journey resonated with you, Please subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts about workplace justice. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success, it's taking everything with you when you go.